All right, it's Fairfield County Live and Local. We're presented by the Sono Collection. My name is John Kamal from 95.9 The Fox. We're in the Fox studio today. I'm not in a cave. I'm not in my basement. I'm actually somewhere that looks somewhat official. And I'm not available for private gigs. But you know what? I'll tell you what. My guest tonight it's Matt McNulty. What's going on, bro?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for hanging out.
Me. This is awesome.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, and I was telling you this a little bit that just before we kind of got on the on live here, but a bunch of different people suggested that I talk to you, and we've never met in person, but as soon as I looked you up and I saw you, I was like, oh yeah, that dude. I've seen that dude in like a million different bands for the last. I mean, how long have you been playing in this area for?
So I used to live out in California like 5 years ago, and I came back here, kind of on a whim, and I just, I just stayed because music was like a lucrative thing, and it was something that I wanted to do. Right. Knowing my dad was a musician in the area for like 40 years, so I had a couple hookups here and there, so I just went with it, and I just did like acoustic gigs at like every restaurant and bar in this county. Right. For like 3 years straight, and that's kind of where I got the go.
So what were you doing in California before that?
Just living the life, man.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. So what tell me about how you got started. How'd you get like introduced to music?
Man, I mean, it's just something that's been a part of my life since day one. My dad is an awesome musician. My uncle is an awesome musician. He also makes guitars, McNulty guitars, which is really cool. I actually don't have one, Uncle Tom. So if you're watching, we need to figure that out.
Oh, come on now. McNulty's got to have a McNulty guitar.
That's what I'm saying. I've always wanted to make an electric guitar for me, but he only makes acoustics, and they're amazing and they're beautiful. So really my like favorite memories of like music and like how I got introduced to it was like definitely like holidays. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it was always like, we went to a relative's house and it was like, you better bring the guitar. And, my dad and my uncle and myself, I would watch and, we'd have fun and, drink whiskey and this, that, and the other thing. And it was just always like a grand, merry time. And like, I really learned a lot there. And then, then I started playing guitar. So I brought my acoustic guitar, obviously. And then I was always getting yelled at, for not singing the right harmony and not playing the right thing or noodling too much. And that was kind of like my introduction to guitar, I suppose.
We're all guilty of that. What was the music? What kind of music were you guys playing?
Total classic rock. Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Beatles. Nice. My dad and uncle have awesome voices, so when they sing together, it's like angelic, I think would be a good word.
Yeah, but, family members, man. It's always like brothers, sisters, anything like that. It's always gonna sound just something a little extra.
There's just something there. They started playing around the same time when they were kids, so it's they've been there forever.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you picked up the guitar?
I think I was like 8th grade, like 11 or 12.
Right on.
Whatever that is. There was like a guitar class, and then I was like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity. And I was also like this like angsty teenager, and I was like, if my dad can play guitar, like I can do it too. And I just kind of jumped on that and just kind of started there at the guitar class. And
a little healthy one-upsmanship and never hurt anybody.
Competition.
That's a good thing. So, I mentioned before seeing you in just like a million different bands. So just, for people who are watching who maybe aren't familiar, Steal Your Funk, Coast to Ghosts, TalkPeck Soundsystem, which I want to ask you about in a little bit, because that's just, I love that. I love that project in general. But what I notice is, predominantly, I feel like jam is almost a dirty word these days, but like predominantly jam music. Would you agree with that assessment?
Listen, if you know me, jam music for me is just where it is always been,
right,
where it's at. And like the way that I view it is like jam music is, if you're a jam band, like you kind of have, nowadays a lot of people kind of have the same kind of dancey, poppy, electronic-y sound or whatever,
right.
But like, it's if you know me, there's nothing better for me musically that like when you're in the middle of complete improvisational thing, like when every band member is like talking to each other without speaking, it's to me is like the coolest feeling. So and even when I'm listening to it too, and any band, it's funny, when I was younger, I used to hate on like the, String Cheese Incident, and whatever I didn't like, I would just hate on. And now I'm realizing like I love it all because it's all a little bit different. But being a jam band means you play all different kinds of genres. And I think it's hard to label, I think that's what you are if you play different genres, a jam band.
Right. Well, and you know what? And I love that answer, because that's kind of the all important question. Because and I just said that it's a dirty word or a cliche. I love music that is described as jam music. I openly say I'm a fan of like jam bands.
Well, I want to hear what the jam of whoever is doing it sounds like. That's just me personally. If they're not good at jamming, it's going to be bad. But if they're very good at it and they're having a musical conversation that's coherent and is energetic and has tension and release and this, that, and the other thing, that's a jam.
Right.
And that's my favorite space to live in musically.
You know what? And this is one of my favorite questions that I ask anybody who's really into simultaneously classic rock and jam band music at the same time, particularly people around the station here. Led Zeppelin, is Zeppelin a jam band?
It is so funny you said Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
I actually had a long car ride today, and I listened to a double disc at fucking Led Zeppelin. The song Remains the Same live. I think it's like from later on.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing, and it's funny you asked that question because I was thinking that literally today. And is Led Zeppelin a jam band? No, they're an amazing rock and roll band. However, when I looked at the time signature, or not, excuse me, the time stamp for Dazed and Confused, and I looked down and it was at a half hour.
Yeah.
It's debatable,
Well, now, so I love that you said no, because I say yes, and I say yes all day, and I get people get so mad at me.
I think
and
they're
I'm
more
like,
of like a metal band, the first metal band, like kind of, before metal was a thing. But that's, you could go into that all day.
I mean, and thank you. Adam is commenting. No, they are not. Okay. All right. Listen, I may be in the minority here, but this is for me, like, because my forever question is, what constitutes a jam band? And like you said a minute ago, and I think this is the best way to describe it. It's a musical conversation. Is it a group of musicians on stage having an extended conversation that's based around improvisation?
Yes.
And if you define it by those terms, I just don't see how Zeppelin could possibly not be. Like, in your mind, where's the differentiation?
I think the differentiation is that I think, Led Zeppelin chose a song or a few songs to just jam on, Dazed and Confused being that example. Maybe Moby Dick, even with like the drum solo. There are jam type things that they have there. However, they never really break the mold, except for, again, Dazed and Confused.
Right.
But I think what constitutes a jam band today is really going out into uncharted territory with any song, if and you're in your catalog. And getting to that, what they call, the type 2 thing that, Fish fans call it or whatever. It's like where you've just left the complete, structure of any song, and now you're just out in outer space.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the outer space component is like, I feel like that's a whole other divisive issue in the jam band community. It's like, some people love
that's
it.
the jam that you can jam on your chord structure, or you could just jam to your heart's desire. Obviously there's a bit of structure happening, but
sure.
You're just trying to make something out of nothing.
I think Ralph brings up a good point, and you kind of touched on it too a little bit too. Is like songs over 5 minutes. I feel like if a band has songs that are over 5 minutes, then all of a sudden the word jam band starts getting like thrown out there.
See, I think if you're doing it on a consistent nightly basis, when that was a thing,
yeah,
sure.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah,
right.
Sure.
But that doing it consistently and exploring your music and doing all that. Mo's a jam band. String Cheese Incident is a jam band. Fish is a jam band. It's like, who's a jam band.
Right. Well, but even like Humphreys, who has such tight compositions and like such clearly, meticulously rehearsed material. I mean, those guys go in, they go hard. But that's still a jam band at the end of the day. I mean, it's prog
rock.
Prog rock, yes.
It's very proggy. It's got a little bit of a harder edge to it. I'm not going to say not like cheesy because that's not the word, but it's got that proggy jam band thing.
No, it does.
know?
It has that thing that it has that thing that Rush has, that
Yeah.
you know, that even that Tool has. You know what I mean? Like just
Sure.
this very it's not even about the different time signature. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, there
It's
is
the
there
vibe
is a
they
thing.
create with dark, with, you know, minor.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
they play in the minor scale. That's it. They play
Yeah,
in
you know.
Oh man. And see Adam saying that Humphreys is a jam band. I don't know.
Yeah, I
See,
mean, I would probably call them a jam band too, actually. But you know, it's funny. I'm actually guilty of, like, I really do like Humphreys McGee, but I'm actually guilty of not knowing a lot of their material. But when I go see them live, I almost like don't like knowing their material because,
yeah.
like, when they're going in and out, I've never seen a show where I have not been blown away.
Right.
You know, where I'm just like, wow, these guys are moving. Like Jake Sininger is just an incredible guitar player.
He's
So
out of control, man.
watching him is just a treat in itself, and I'd pay the $30 or whatever it is to just see him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, so, and I mean, I want to talk about your projects, but I love picking your brain about this because you are such a jam band guy. You're such a jam band aficionado. For people who aren't familiar, and by the way, I'm talking to Matt McNulty right now. It's Fairfield County Live and Local. We're presented by the Sono Collection. You are, I mean, host of Ghosts with Fish. You've got these, you know, since the pandemic started, these weekly or almost weekly dead streams that you've been doing. You know, Steal Your Funk. Not strictly jam per se, but like, you know, a lot of extended jams in that band. Excuse me, I've been drinking my coffee way too fast. What is it? Not that appeals to you, because I feel like we just kind of went on a whole tangent about that. But like, you know, what do you enjoy about picking these songs apart? Because this isn't original music. This is you kind of like looking at and reinterpreting existing songs that are in such an open structure, being jam music.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. What do you?
So sorry. Yeah, no, that was the question. The question was, what do you enjoy about playing in bands like that?
What do I mean, just about playing jam music in general? Like,
Yeah, but also specifically about the tribute thing. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like
all right.
Coast of
So the
Ghosts
tribute
doing
thing.
specifically
Okay.
Fish, and like, you know, the specifically dead stuff.
Okay.
And again, I threw Steal Your Funk in there, which has a wide, you know, menagerie of musicians. But,
well, here's the other thing. Steal Your Funk is more of like Jen Durkin and Jordan Giangreco's thing.
Right.
Which was awesome. I'm actually no longer there. I'm not in that band anymore. But
Sure.
like, I'm, you know, because I have other things going on. But that has always been super fun, and playing with Jen is always a fantastic time, and she's a blast. As far as the tribute things go, so, you know, the Host of Ghosts thing kind of just started. And we were playing every Wednesday at Pacific Standard just to play, and then it was just kind of like, well, we're playing Fish and Dead or whatever. Like, why don't we just do a Dead night and do a Fish night? And then like Host of Ghosts kind of spawned out of that. But it's like, the thing about playing the music for me and how it started is because it's something that I know so well that it's not easy music, but it's something that I know so well. And you know, when I go to learn a new song, it's almost like I already know it after I've played it a few times, and it's fun stuff to jam on. It's stuff that people know. And then, you know, the Dead thing kind of just, you know, the same thing. Dead is a bigger crowd, especially around here.
Yeah.
But
Southern Connecticut, especially.
I kept the Host of Ghosting around because, you know, people started booking us for private parties. And like, I realized, and there's this market of like, you know, 30 to 50-year-old people around Connecticut who want to have like some Fish music in their backyard. And this past summer, you know, did really well. It was super fun. Played for a lot of cool fans, and like, you know, it was just, we're bringing this thing to you. And I kind of give people the, you know, the openness to pick their set list and stuff like that. As far as the Dead thing goes, back to that, during this, you know, quarantine and COVID, I've been doing We Will Get By, which has been mostly every other Wednesday, every Wednesday.
That was the name. Yes. Yeah. And very,
so that's with members of Shakedown, that people know here in Connecticut, and Terrapin that people know here in Connecticut as well. And that just kind of started out of necessity to want to play, and I have the space here. that is just awesome. So I invited a few people once things got comfortable, and I was just, guys, let's just play some music, and then we were like, you know what, let's just like do every Wednesday, every other Wednesday, whatever it is, kind of open because people's schedules are all different.
Sure.
But yeah, and it's funny, it's actually been the most fun I've ever had playing this dead music, because if you go to facebook.com/Matt McNulty Music, all of those shows are up there. So check them out. But it's such a cool, authentic sounding dead band. And I never, I always played tons of dead, but we never really had this authenticity of sound. And I just love playing with these guys. And you could see over the course of like, I think the 7 or 8 episodes that are up there, how much better things have gotten. And that's another thing that's definitely available for private parties.
Right.
And then, yeah, that's basically what I've been doing to keep busy. I think I've learned like half the entire Grateful Dead repertoire at this point. It's like maybe
which is formidable. I mean, that's a large cat. Froze. Nope, never mind. You're back.
Hardest music. It's not the hardest music, but I look at the Grateful Dead as a genre. It's American folk music that is just like a genre of music, and they cover all the grounds. So it's learning them is like learning a whole bunch of different things.
Right.
And that's been
now.
Really
what
fun.
about TalkPeck though? TalkPeck Soundsystem. How did you get the idea for that? Because I mean, like the Dead and Fish, a lot of comparisons to draw there. But with TalkPeck Soundsystem, you're getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's LCD Soundsystem, Talking Heads, and Wolfpack. These are very LCD Soundsystem, a little bit more wide open, but generally speaking, these are very tight, very composition heavy bands. So that almost seems off brand for you in a way.
Well, the thing about TalkPeck is it just started as this like random idea where I was just like, let's do like a mashup or something. And I don't even know if I really remember where these things came from. I was like, let's wear all white and let's do this. And I was just kind of like, let's just do this thing.
That wasn't like a David Byrne thing. That was just you being like, yeah, dude, let's just wear all white. Why not?
Like, I don't know. It just kind of fit the mold, I guess.
Yeah.
And
oh no, it totally did. It totally did.
Yeah, and actually the other one, in the first one we had Sammy Blanchett play guitar, and everyone was like wearing white, and I was like,
fire guitar player, by the way.
Oh, Sammy is unreal. If you people out there, Sammy Blanchett, you don't know him, find out. He's the best. But he came dressed in baseball white, short pants and like a baseball shirt, but it also fit the mold because like Wolfpack was doing all of that, like
sporty, 1-for-1 DiMaggio and all that. Yeah.
So as it progressed, I started to get guys like Scotty Zwang from Ghostlight was like one of the first bigger guys. That wasn't Jen, and then Tim Palmieri came on, did a couple shows with us. It just, and we got all these guys from all these bands, and gosh. The concept itself came from the simple fact that I always thought David Byrne and James Murphy from LCD Soundsystem were very similar, and I think that James Murphy really derived a lot of what he did from the Talking Heads. If you listen to LCD Soundsystem, it's a lot. It's compositional, but it does have these like everyone's doing one thing, right?
Right.
So if you have 10
and like full disclosure, that of those 3 bands, that is the band that I am the least familiar with. I've only ever just seen them live wasted like a couple of times.
Oh man. In my opinion, it's one of my favorite live shows ever. I went to Red Rocks a few years ago to actually see him for 2 nights, and they've actually played the same show, but I was thrilled.
Yeah.
But it's just super fun dance, punk, electronic, it's awesome. And I just thought that if I could sing those songs, I could sing the Talking Heads. I knew that I could sing these LCD, Soundsystem songs. I was like, and then I can get some sick players and play these Wolfpack songs. Like, I think it would be kind of a cool mashup. And it got to the point where I would like do the set list. It would be like, Talking Heads, Wolfpack, LCD, Talking Heads, Wolfpack, LCD, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I realized I started mashing just the Talking Heads and the Wolfpack in one set, and then LCD Soundsystem another set to like just really just go for it. But back to the the moving parts of like the band or whatever, having 10 people doing one thing is like, it's intricate, but it's if everyone knows their part and it's all in time, it all just comes together.
Right.
And it's been TalkPeck has been a really crazy thing. We've had Danny Mayer, we've had Alan from the Disco Biscuits, we've had Mike Greenfield from Lotus, Rob Compa from Dopapod, Sammy from Turquoise.
Yep.
We've had such awesome musicians, and all the local people. You know, we got Rob Midori and Miles Avosi, Jeff Borg.
Is that how you say Rob's last name? I've been mispronouncing Rob's last
Mador.
name.
Yeah.
I've been saying Mador. Rob, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. I've said that like on the air so many times wrong.
Yeah, so it's been kind of my gateway also into playing with more renowned musicians, I guess. A friend of mine, Derek Havland, he does Full Circle Music Productions.
Yeah.
And he's been my dear childhood friend, and he really put me on because he manages a lot of these artists that have played with TalkPeck. So he's kind of put me on with these guys, and it's just been fun. We do it out of fun. And then Goose let us open up for them for Goosemas.
Yeah.
And thank you, Goose. Love you guys. Really appreciate that. And it was just too much fun, man. They put us in front of 2,000, like almost 2,000 people. And it made TalkPeck something at that point, which was really great.
Right.
And actually TalkPeck Soundsystem. At TalkPeck Soundsystem.
At TalkPeck Soundsystem. I'm going to add that onto here too. But yeah, oh my God. Yeah, no. And that Goosemas, I was, oh my God, I was so upset that I couldn't make that. My kid was like just getting old enough to where we could leave him, with my mother or something like that. But it was like on the cusp, and we didn't go. We were like, oh, we'll go next year. And now who the heck knows what next year is going to bring.
Right.
But, yeah. So, and well, I guess speaking of that, so you've been so active, throughout this whole, like the early days of quarantine. We will get by the Grateful Dead thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Like, I mean, you started to mention, before we went live, like you prepared for quarantine almost.
Well, I heard that there was like lockdowns coming. And I was just like, I have this cool studio space at the Nest. And I was like, I need to be able to play. Like, I need to be able to, and truly, I need to be able to make a couple bucks. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So like, and then to everyone who tipped and donated, y'all the best. So what happened was I realized like this was all going to happen. So like the day before lockdown happened, before they announced it, I literally ran up and down the shore of like Fairfield County and whatever, trying to find like any streaming gear I could find, And
so this is like what? This is like March 11th, something like that?
Yeah, definitely back March. Yeah, 100%. Like,
yeah.
I'm not like the day before the lockdown. I found all of this stuff in bits and pieces in random stores, like all over the county. And was able to put together this like setup to stream. And like, I had just gotten this like digital mixer. So thank God. And then
sure,
put the two together, and all of a sudden I had this like really cool, camera and stream, and I was able to go with good audio and everything.
What was your what clued you in? What was your I guess not eureka moment, but my holy shit moment? Like,
well, holy shit moment is like, I was like, I'm not gonna have any gigs. Like, private parties that I had booked in the spring. Devastating to lose. It was terrible.
Of
but
course,
but at any rate, I had to do something. So I had to acclimate somehow. And I was like, having the space to do it, it has to be done. So that's where my head was at. So I made it happen for myself. And I've actually had a few people in here to do, streams. I've had Dowie Joey.
Yeah.
I've had Ryan Berry and Christian Mariano from Cabin Fever, and a few other guys. And it's been, it's been so great to have, and it's not far from my house. So, being able to play music has been great for the head.
Right. I mean, yeah, listen, I can only imagine. I haven't had a chance to play music in so long. But I get to do this, and that's a very nice outlet.
John, you gotta come here, man.
I know. Here. Yeah, no, dude. Yeah. Before we go, I live less than a mile from the Nest. I used to hang out there all the time. Shout out to Dowie Joey and Ryan Berry, by the way. You can find episodes of this show with Dowie Joey and with the Mushroom Cloud, Ryan's other project.
Oh, cool.
On Spotify, iTunes, and all that fun stuff. So, oh my God, dude. Like, I find it so funny that that even before lockdown, you were just like, oh no, this is going to get really bad. There's like something's going to happen. I'm going to start losing it. Like, were you already losing gigs at this point, or like or were you just assuming that you were going to?
Well, I played a gig, I think. Okay, so I think my last gig was March 13th, and it was at Christie's in New Haven. But like,
yeah,
no one else wanted to do a show, but I had the show booked, so we did a Host to Go show there, and I think like 10
how many? Yeah,
and like, and I think at the end of that, we just like looked at each other, and we were just like, yeah, I don't know if this is like the best idea, so like let's move this on, you know. So I write that in there when someone says quarantine, I'm like, what do you? Like I was very flustered when I heard all of this, so I just knew that like I had to play music. So if you see like in the beginning, and like I have streams on my McNulty and Friends page from like me doing acoustic stuff from like April and stuff like that, and I was like really going hard on it, and then I kind of fell off on it a little bit. But it's honestly, John, it was just about complete necessity of like needing to play music and perform music and get a reaction from people. And I've done like one private party this year that was with people during the day, and like hearing people clap is just
that's gotta be such a trip right now.
Dude, it's a treat.
That's gotta be such a thing. I hosted an event like right before quarantine happened. It was this Battle of the Bands, and like the final show was like 200 people in a room that does not fit 200 people, like just all screaming and clapping and going nuts.
Right before Corona,
it was about a month. It was about a month before we shut down. And I was like it was just kind of in the news. It was like we were kind of talking about it in China. And I remember like being at that gig thinking like, oh God, this is obnoxious. I feel so claustrophobic. Now, what I wouldn't give to have an evening like that again.
Right.
Dude, it's just,
I'm telling you, man, what I wouldn't give to have a crowd that could dance on front of the stage.
Oh God. I mean, I'm not willing to chance it like some other people in some other states are. I'm not, listen.
There's parameters if you're booking a private
gig,
you know what I mean? So let that be known. But happy to do them if it's up, if it's the right way.
Well, what do you think is the move going forward? What do you think the future of I mean, at least the Connecticut music scene looks like?
Well, I think, once the summer dies out and the fall starts to get cold, people are just going to be inside, and there's not going to be any music. I think people are pushing the envelope right now with doing these drive-in things. And, it's awesome. Listen, I if someone asked me to do one, I would do one. So, but like, the thing is, they start out one way and end another. And it's a very gray area.
Well, booze tends to have that effect.
Yeah, and some people want to say, but the thing is, if you're there, you're kind of there, and you kind of already signed that personal contract of like, okay, I'm going to hang out in a social situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, all power to everyone doing it. I think it's great for the bands to be that separated from people, but I think it's the people that need to stay separated and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and you hear about I mean, like people having their own separate booths and the band being up there. There's the drive-in shows like you were talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, is stuff like that sustainable, or is it just will it always inevitably just lead to, well, I'll just go talk to them for like a minute, and then all of a sudden everyone's just kind of.
I just think I think there is a way to do things that it can be. Excuse me for 1 second. Plug this computer. There are ways to do things completely safely. It's just nobody really knows what that is right now. And I think people are doing shows out of necessity for themselves, and musicians need money and people need music. And it's all based out of necessity. And then people are turning their cheek, the other eye, because they need to live their life and make the money the only way that they know how to make money. And that's what it's all about. If you ask me, I would love to be making the money that I would make from gigs, but I'm not. And, and I can see how people are really struggling.
I mean, you've been so active in that, and just like supporting local venues, like PST. Obviously, Adam's been chiming in on this conversation.
Adam is a saint, by the way. I just want to say that, Adam, you're a saint.
But like, and even like, the acoustic we had, I had Will on a couple of weeks ago, and thankfully he on that podcast announced that the acoustic was going to be alive for a little while longer. But
Which is so awesome.
it's so awesome because but it's so important, and I think people forget, understandably, because people have lives to live and this is a tough time, but like, everyone misses live music. Everyone misses, but everyone's just sitting there assuming like, oh, well, eventually we'll go back to concerts. Well, yeah, we will. But if you want to go to a concert at your favorite local venue, if you want to go to Bryac or the Acoustic or the Pacific Standard Tavern or to, even like places like O'Neill's, Norwalk, like even bigger spots, the Cap, Wall Street Theater, you gotta find ways like in the here and now to support the local venues and the local, even more importantly, the local artists. Otherwise, this thing could all end and suddenly we've just got a bunch of empty buildings where we all used to have a lot of fun.
That's the chain, right? It's like the local venue supports the local artist, and then the local people come into, you know what I mean? And then, there's that chain.
Yeah.
So, not having either is rough. And if you all don't know out there is a PST relief fund. It's a GoFundMe. You can track it down pretty easily on the PST Facebook page.
Yeah. And we're gonna link up to after this. We're gonna repost this up with some of your fundraising information too. But dude, this has been great. I wish that we could have this conversation in person over like a beverage or something. But if we got to do it this way, I was happy to be able to do it, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, John.
All right, brother. Well, listen, it's Fairfield County Live and Local. We're presented by the Sono Collection. Talking to Matt McNulty. There we go. Words are fun. From Host of Ghosts, from TalkPeck Soundsystem, Matt McNulty and Friends. We will get by. That's the message right now.
We will.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Matt?
We will survive. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
You again.
Wear a mask. Save our stages. Support local music. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, man.
Have a great night, man.